Okie dokie. Let's open with tight ends. Keep in mind, to all of y'all listening and watching, this is a composite list that we have put together.
The heck is that supposed to mean?
It means that
that
through the
was
power
a
of
shot
math,
at me is what just happened. That was a shot if the listeners weren't paying attention.
No.
Keep in mind, this is a composite list. This is not my own personal opinions. This is Ben's crap sprinkled in here.
Shot. There was no shot. We will have our arguments. That was purely just setting the scene.
I am already heated.
No, this is setting the scene. Okay, when I disagree, you will know. I'm gonna keep it straight with you. But at tight end one, we have no disagreement.
No, we fully agree there.
It's Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really any argument that he's not the tight end one in Dynasty. I can't think of one off the top of my head. He had the most.
Oh, is it the fact that
ever.
he just was the tight end one in his rookie season?
Right, like he
which
already
never
did it.
happens.
Yeah,
never ever happens as a rookie.
The previous best like rookie tight end season ever was what Kyle Pitts did, where he had 1,000 yards and scored like no touchdowns.
And Kyle Pitts is down on this list.
Yeah, and then Sam Laporta comes in and has like 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. It's like, oh, okay.
Now
that'll do.
Not to take away from Sam Laporta because it was an incredible rookie tight end season. But TJ Hawkinson was a close second. He got injured at the end of the season. Mark Andrews got injured at the end of the season. Travis Kelce, he dealt with a lot of injuries and the Chiefs' offense overall just being bad. So he was the tight end one, and he was great. But the other great tight ends around him kind of just had things go wrong in their seasons. So just something, I guess, to keep in mind. Not saying he's not the tight end one for fantasy.
No, that is true. He was not like a landslide tight end one like what Travis Kelce has been for so many years. It was pretty tight up until the end. But he's a rookie. He was the tight end one. That's insanity.
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
He's the dynasty one. At number 2, we've got Mark Andrews. What do we say about?
Should we say? I have Mark Andrews.
Well, yes. No, I'm not throwing shade on Mark Andrews at 2. He's great. I have him in the granddaddy of them all. I'm very happy to have Mark Andrews as my dynasty tight end.
My light just died, so.
So it's back to darkness.
I'll just turn the brightness on my tablet over here all the way up.
Your light, the brand new light that made it to where we could see you, lasted for 17 minutes.
Oh, man. That's depressing.
Where did you buy that thing?
Walmart. And I had to get a dude get this thing out of the case. The case that they guard with soldiers these days.
Yeah.
It was really fun. Let's take a quick detour here. I go to Walmart. I just got a new phone just to upgrade or whatever, and to keep the lifespan of phone keep going or whatever. So I had to get new chargers because Apple apparently every year decides that they need to update the iPhone's charging port because it's not good enough. So great. Yep. So I go to Walmart to get new cords, and I'm like, oh, I need to get a light while I'm here because I would always forget to get it. I'm like, I'm going to get it while I'm here. And I go to the employee to get the cords first. He gets them, he hands them to me. I have to go to like a whole different section and get the light. And of course I have to go get keys and get him to let him out for me. And the crazy part of the story is the dude still to this moment hasn't spoken a word to me.
Like you've asked him to do things and he's been silent.
Yes. I went, asked him, hey, can you get this out for me? And like, honest to God, I was polite to the guy. I'm like, hey, do you mind grabbing this for me, man? And he comes over, unlocks it. I'm like, hey, thanks. I appreciate the help. And just nothing, just dead silence. Like his facial emotions don't change, nothing. And then I do the same thing. I have to get the same guy because, there's only like 3 people who work at Walmart apparently. And he like, hey, can you get this out for me too? I'm sorry to keep bugging you, man. And just nothing. Nothing. He hands it to me again. I'm like, hey, man, I appreciate your help. Thanks so much. Nothing. He says nothing. He doesn't even grunt. Like, say something.
No
Sir,
noise
have you
whatsoever.
have you ever cared about anything in your entire life? I mean,
He works at Walmart, so probably not.
anyway, it was just weird. Okay. Back
Well,
to
he
tight
sold
ends.
you a defective light, so
No, it's supposed to be chargeable, and my charging cord's over there, and I don't really want to get up and get it.
all right, tight ends. Mark Andrews is at 2. I don't really have a ton to say about Mark Andrews, honestly.
You can't disagree that much.
No, I don't. I really don't disagree all that much. I had Mark Andrews at my Dynasty tight end 1 prior to the season, and then he was good and then got injured, and Laporta and McBride and, fill in the blank were really good. And so I just dropped him down below those 2 purely because of age. But I have no issues with Mark Andrews being at 2.
Yeah, I guess what I see with Mark Andrews, I mean, the guy is he 28 or 29? Because if he's still 28 years old. We have historically seen tight ends perform extremely well into their 30s. I mean, Travis Kelce is 35 and just hit his wall. Not saying that, Travis Kelce's not a unicorn and Mark Andrews won't fall off before that, but I'm like still 32, 33 years old. So that's 4 more years of great production for Mark Andrews. He's an outstanding tight end. He is still Lamar Jackson's favorite target. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So, I mean, if you can promise me 3-4 more years of Mark Andrews like this, I don't see how I can put any of these younger guys over him at this point.
Yeah. No, I get it. And he's going to play for a while. Yeah, everything you just said is correct. None of what you said is wrong. I think it purely was an age thing. It was obviously with Laporta, he's already above him anyway. For me, McBride had 800 yards and he is 24. And I was like, it's an age thing. But I have really no bone to pick with putting in Mark Andrews, who is a stud.
Yeah, I like Mark Andrews too. He is the guy on this list of all the others. If you consider injuries to Hawkinson and things like that, if I had to pick a guy who is most likely to be the tight end 1 next year, my money would be on Mark Andrews.
And that's fair. Yeah. I think if I had to pick a guy who would be the tight end 1 next year, it would be Andrews. Laporta, Laporta could definitely be right there because nothing is changing in that offense.
I think he's still top 3. I mean, worst case scenario, Sam Laporta is a top 3 tight end next year.
Yeah.
That's assuming Kelce returns to form or something.
Right. Literally the only thing I could think of would be that Kelce just has one last hoorah year. But I mean, outside of that,
I think it could happen with Kelce. We'll talk about him later, but I mean, his days of the dominant are done. But I think if the Chiefs can kind of set right, I mean, obviously they righted the ship. They're back in the Super Bowl, and he's had an outstanding playoff run, by the way.
Amazing.
But if they can get him some help during the regular season and he doesn't have to be the guy, I could see him still having 900 yards and 8 touchdowns a year for the next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, and that would be enough. So at 3 in our composite, we have Trey McBride. I mentioned him briefly. He's 24. He finally broke out. He had 800 yards. The thing with him that's exciting is he didn't hardly play the first 5 weeks of the year, and he had his first good game in week 6 when he had 5 targets and he turned that into 4 for 62. And then down the stretch, he just became Kyler Murray's safety blanket, and Kyler Murray was targeting him left, right, and center. And he ends up with
a lot of
yards.
injuries. A lot of injuries. So he was the number 1 receiver because Marquise Brown was gone at that point, I think.
Yeah. And like, I guess in my head, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way his role could change. And like, let's say they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and you keep Marquise Brown. I still think so. McBride had 106 targets this past season. I still think he's the type of guy that even if you have Marvin Harrison and Marquise Brown, he gets 115, 120 targets as a tight end.
I don't know. It feels. Do you think Kyler Murray throws the ball 500 something times? I don't know.
Let's see what he did this past year.
Well, that's not really fair because he was out half the year.
Well, but if he gets like 400 some
I
odd,
guess you could extrapolate it.
yeah,
But I guess if you keep Marquise and bring in Marvin Harrison, Marvin Harrison Jr. There are 3 football teams in the National Football League that if Marvin Harrison joined them, he would not be the instant dominant one.
And he will be.
Yeah, and he will be the dominant number one. Like if he goes to the Bengals, obviously Chase is still the dude. If he went to the Vikings, Jefferson's the dude. And if he went to the Cowboys, CeeDee's the dude. Every other team, he is a monster for. So, I don't know.
I just looked at Kyler Murray's pace. He was on pace. If you took his 8-game attempts pace last season and extrapolated it over a full 17-game season, he would pace out for 570 attempts.
Okay.
So, that's enough. I don't think he has McBride, speaking of McBride, I don't think McBride has to be like 130, 140 kind of target guy. Like he already gave you 800 yards and did not score many touchdowns with only 106 targets. So I think if you just have more consistency throughout the full season, where in his case last year, you pretty much have to delete the first 5 weeks because he wasn't on the field yet. And then Zach Ertz got injured, and then he all of a sudden was on the field and was really good. I guess that's where I'm at with McBride.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree with anything you said. There's just, I don't know. Yeah, I want to see the offense with other options besides only him.
Fair. Yeah, and that makes sense. I guess I just saw him like dominate when he was the show in town, and I was like, okay, that is awesome. We can work with that. We'll figure out a way to get that to work in the context of there's more weapons.
And I do feel like Kyler has a history of whoever his top target is, he just hyper targets that one person. Yeah. So and maybe I'm dead wrong, and I'm not saying McBride isn't amazing because obviously he was extremely good. But I just want to see some target competition before I'm all in.
Yeah. At 4, we have TJ Hawkinson.
My personal favorite.
Yeah. Neither one of us have questions about the talent. I think you have less questions about his ACL than I do. At the end of the day, he was still basically the tight end 2 this past year.
We don't know 100% what time he will miss. He's going to miss sometime. And I'm not going to argue that at all. It's just how much. I've seen some people speculate 6 games, some people 8. It's just too early with the injury to tell. But I don't know. I've seen everything I need to see from TJ Hawkinson. When he's healthy, the man. When he's healthy, he might be the tight end 1.
Yeah. Especially when you have Kirk Cousins.
He was the tight end 1 for me for Dynasty, and he was in real life up until his injury. So
yeah, I think if he did not tear the ACL. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think these top 4 guys. People will argue Hawkinson lower because of the injury, and I do get it. He's going to miss time, but once he comes back and healthy, he probably jumps up to 2, right behind Sam Laporta, because he is 26 years old, and he is just entering his prime as a tight end. So, yeah, But I feel like these top 4 guys, you can sort of make an argument for pretty much anybody anywhere outside of Laporta. I think he's kind of the undisputed one at this point.
Yeah.
But Andrews, McBride, and Hawkinson all have a viable argument for the second spot, essentially.
At 5, we've got Brock Bowers. I think I'm pulling Brock Bowers up to 5. I think that's
you are. I think I had him at 6 or 7.
Okay.
Maybe I'm too low. Maybe.
Well, so in my mind, Brock Bowers was a large part of the reason why Georgia won 2 national championships. He was their best offensive player. And before I even looked at numbers, like, did you pay attention to Senior Bowl coverage and sort of like the buzz coming out of the Senior Bowl at all? Did that cross your radar?
The only person I followed at the Senior Bowl was Spencer Rattler, going like 4 for 4 and dropping a 30-yard tutty on the opening drive.
Well, in the Senior Bowl practices, the name that kept coming up, or at least the one that I kept seeing be brought up, was Ladd McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia. Everybody was like, "This dude's incredible. He's a separation specialist."
I did see some stuff about him. Yeah, he was torching guys.
Yeah, so Ladd McConkey's killing people. And the only reason he was not very good in college, he didn't produce a ton at Georgia. He does not have a 1,000-yard season at Georgia. The reason why he didn't do anything was because Brock Bowers was their number 1 receiver. And then I go look at the numbers. So we've got that context of they've got a receiver who's probably going to get drafted in the 2nd round that nobody knew about because Brock Bowers just like overshadowed him and he couldn't live in the shade. And so then I go look at PFF and I'm like, all right, how good is this Brock Bowers dude actually? Well, in 2023, he led all college football all tight ends in football in yards per route run at 2.65. In 2022, he led all tight ends in yards per route run. In 2021, he led all tight ends in yards per route run. You want to know another name that was high up there that Brock Bowers was better than his freshman year in college? Trey McBride. So McBride was a 2nd-round pick, had a breakout year, and Brock Bowers had a better yards per route run than Trey McBride. I think he was at like 3.3 yards per route run, which is stupid, and McBride had 2.7. So, all that to say, I think Brock Bowers is a unicorn, and I know we don't have landing spots, and I know not everything has sort of fleshed out, and landing spot is going to weight this once we get into it. But just on a pure talent basis, he's a freak, and I think he's very, very good.
I think in my own personal rankings, I had him at 6, so I am very high on him. But I have been burned by a unicorn before, and his name was Kyle Pitts. And tight end is just such a hard position to nail. I mean, Sam Laporta is a unicorn because it doesn't happen with rookie guys very often. Like Kyle Pitts had an incredible rookie season, and he was the tight end 7, I think.
Yeah.
And he's disappointed since then. A lot of it is due to situation, so keep that in mind. But I don't know. I guess I'm not willing to go all in on the rookie tight end because I've been burned in the past. You've been burned in the past. And I want to see a landing spot, and I want to see it before I guess I say, yeah, absolutely. Just because of the nature of the position of tight end.
Yeah. Okay. 6, Dalton Kincaid.
I think I pulled Dalton Kincaid up.
You might have. And this is like, I think Dalton Kincaid is pretty good. I guess
I was honestly surprised by me being higher on Kincaid than you are, because I figured you would be high on Kincaid.
I am, but I knew I would have Brock Bowers over him, and I think we disagree on that. But I knew that automatically was going to shake things up, and then I think I also had McBride over him, and I think you've got Kincaid over McBride. And that one, I don't think I can convince myself in my head for Kincaid over McBride, but
Josh Allen.
I'm sure.
Stephon Diggs might be gone.
If Stephon Diggs is gone, then yeah, I mean he's got to move up.
And he did produce with Diggs. I mean, Diggs missed no games this year, and Kincaid still produced.
Yeah, Kincaid was not really super startable in fantasy this year. He was good. He had that stretch when Dawson Knox went out when he was very good. But when Dawson Knox was in the lineup, Kincaid just wasn't super awesome. He was giving you like 4 for 30, which is like, it's not terrible because tight end's goose. So like 4 for 30 is a lot better than 0.
Listen, I've been in the fantasy purgatory for tight ends for a long time. I'll take 4 for 30 any day of the week.
Yeah, you're like 4 for 30 and maybe a touchdown. We'll take it.
All right, he got 7 points. I'll take it.
You're like, we can live with that. Yeah, no, I think Kincaid's really good. And I think we have talked a lot about Kincaid just like off the podcast, shooting the breeze a little bit. And I think it's very possible Kincaid next year takes a leap, similar to how McBride went from a guy who was not doing a ton for the Cardinals to a couple things broke right for him and he got on the field and was awesome. And I think Kincaid could definitely take a step forward next year, and maybe with the full offseason, or a second full offseason, I should say, he gets further integrated into the offense with Joe Brady, and they start to ramp it up a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a decent ranking for Kincaid here. I'm fine having him at 6.
Yeah, he's really good. 6 is like, oh, he's fine. No, 6 is he's.
I mean,
very,
after
very
your
good.
rookie year, we were all ready to crown Kyle Pitts, but like, I mean, for Dalton Kincaid to be here at 6, I feel like that's pretty good.
He had a very, very good rookie year for a tight end, with the caveat of for a tight end. It was a very good tight end rookie year.
For a tight end.
Yeah. Speaking of the man who has burned you and put you in tight end purgatory for so many years, Kyle Pitts is at 7.
Still got to
Explain
give him the
yourself.
nod. Okay, you want to talk about Brock Bowers being a unicorn? Kyle Pitts was the original unicorn. He was the standard of the unicorn. This man doesn't happen but once in a generation, is what people said. And he's broken 1,000 yards. People forget. My man has had 1,000-yard season. And then Arthur Smith kind of just forgot about him. I'm keeping him my hope. He's got a new quarterback. Assuming, there's no way we keep our current quarterbacks. He will have a new quarterback. Got a new coach, new offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator is the pass game coordinator. He was the OC for the Rams, so coming from air raid, they throw the ball. Hopefully that, gets us somewhere. And let's not forget, he is younger than TJ Hawkinson. He's younger than Dalton Kincaid. He is younger than Trey McBride, obviously younger than Mark Andrews, and he is the same age as Sam Laporta. He's been in the league for 3 years. Let's not forget about Kyle Pitts. I know he's been disappointing. Does he ever hit? Maybe not. We got to prepare ourselves for that. But at the same time, he is still the probably most physically and athletically gifted tight end in the league. I don't think there's any question in that to my mind. And if we can get him a coach who knows how to use him, he will break fantasy.
Yeah, I do want to do a little bit of a college comparison here with Bowers and Pitts because I think it's interesting because we do look at Kyle Pitts as that is a generational tight end prospect. So Bowers and Pitts both played 3 seasons in college, and Brock Bowers, his freshman season, had 880 yards and 13 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts had 73 yards and 1 touchdown. In his sophomore year, Brock Bowers had 940 yards and 7 touchdowns. And Kyle Pitts had 54 for 649 and 5. And then in this most recent year, Brock Bowers in 10 games had 714 yards and 6 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts in his final year had 770 and 12. I just think it's worth noting that Brock Bowers in his freshman year had more yards than Kyle Pitts had in any year in his college career. The measurables aside, the production is just like unbelievably ridiculous for Brock Bowers.
Well, I've got Brock Bowers over Kyle Pitts.
You do, but
I do.
There's some context to it, I guess, because
now Bowers also was always in a better
generational
offense.
prospect.
He was always in a better offense than Pitts ever was. Florida's offense was god awful when Pitts was there. He never had a good quarterback.
He had Kyle Trask, dude.
Kyle Trask isn't any good.
Kyle Trask was like in the Heisman watch when last year.
Kyle Trask was a
Kyle
joke.
Trask was in the Heisman
If you watch
watch.
college football, you knew Kyle Trask was a joke.
Maybe he wasn't all that good, but you cannot tell me that offense was bad. They had Kadarius Toney. Kyle Trask was getting Heisman
Have you seen
votes.
Kadarius Toney?
In college, he was the truth.
No, he wasn't. It was a shock when the Giants took him at 20.
Well, that was a shock. Yeah, he wasn't a first-round
Yeah,
pick good,
he
but
was
he
not
was
the
like a
truth.
second-rounder. He was like a second-round talent that got overdrafted because he ran fast.
He fast.
He also needs to delete all his social media accounts.
You need to. Sorry. You need to come off social media, sir. I'm still screwing around with this this light.
Are you trying to fix like Jimmy rig the light while we're recording?
Ignore what I'm doing in the background.
At 8, we have Evan Ingram.
About
I
time.
don't know why that's funny, but
It's funny because every time we talked about tight ends, I always wanted to mention Evan Ingram, and you were like, dude, it doesn't matter after like number tight end 8. I'm like, bro, Evan Ingram is good, and he's got a good contract, and he gets a bunch of targets. And you're like, yeah, but it's tight ends. It doesn't matter. And now you're finally in like, oh, Tevin Ingram is good. Like, yeah, I've been telling you he's good.
I'll have it noted that I'm higher on Evan Ingram than Dynasty than Ben is.
Exactly. And I like Evan Ingram.
But you're right. Like, we're at the point now with Dynasty tight ends where I don't really care anymore. I know there's some names that are still worth mentioning, but
Travis
we're at
Kelce
the
has
point
not been
where I don't
mentioned.
care anymore. I know. And for Dynasty, it's like, I mean, we'll see. So we've got Evan Ingram at 8. He had 100+ receptions last year. He's very good. He does get overlooked. I think it's worth acknowledging that he does get overlooked.
He was like the tight end. Was he the tight end 3 this year?
I don't remember. If he would have had just like 5 touchdowns, he would have basically been the tight end 1, though. He
would
had
have games where he would just like have 15 catches for no reason.
right. He was the tight end 2 actually in PPR.
Oh my gosh.
I mean in PPR. But he had 114 receptions and 960 yards, but only 4 touchdowns. So he had 143 targets.
There's a chance that this could happen again too, because Calvin Ridley may not be back.
I keep seeing that T. Higgins might go to the Jaguars.
I would love that. Would love that.
Yeah, I
Oh,
figured you would like that.
oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I figured you might like that.
Oh, that is exciting.
Is there anything else on Evan Ingram that we have other than
No.
he just produced a lot?
We can kind of speed through the rest of these and get to quarterbacks.
Okay. All right. Travis Kelce, number 9.
What?
Feels weird, doesn't it?
This is strange. He was probably 2 last year when we recorded this episode.
Yeah. And then he's 34 going on 35. He had a down year. His down year was still 900+ yards, but it was a down year.
He had a down year and was the tight end 3.
Yeah.
And we're like, Kelsey's washed.
He just was not good the second half of the year. The first half of the year, he was great. Like, far and away, the tight end won the first half of the year. Second half of the year, it was rough. He was like tight end 10 or something. And then in your fantasy playoffs, he was real bad. So there's a bad
And
taste
in the real
in
life
your mouth
playoff,
about
he
him.
decides to have like 1,000 yards. So I'm like, oh, great. Now that I don't want the Chiefs to win or Travis Kelce to do well, they just start dominating.
Yeah, he's been excellent in the real life playoffs. Didn't he have
Wildly
like 2
annoying.
straight 100-yard games or something?
Yeah, he had I want to see. I know he had 2 touchdowns against the Bills, I think. Did he score against
that's
the
what it
Ravens?
was.
I don't think he scored against the Ravens.
No, he may not.
Who
no,
did they
did.
play before
He
the
did.
Ravens? For the Bills, who did they play?
The Dolphins.
He scored twice against the Dolphins, I think.
So he scored
Which game
in
did he
all
have
3
2?
playoff games.
I should probably just.
He
pull
had
this
2
up
against
instead of
Buffalo. It was definitely
spitting
2
off the
against
top of my
Buffalo.
head.
He
I know he had
scored
2 against
once.
Buffalo.
Yeah, he scored once against Baltimore, I think. Basically,
Okay.
he just reminded us that he can do it.
7 for 70 against the Dolphins, 5 for 75 and 2, and then 11 catches on 11 targets for $116 and a touchdown against the Ravens.
So he does still have it.
Yeah, he's still got it.
He's still got it. He's good. How many more seasons would you bet on Travis Kelce being good? By being good, I mean like a top 3 tight end.
My gut knee jerk is 2, potentially. I think he could do it again next year. He's not gonna be my tight end 1 next year, I don't think.
No,
Maybe,
he won't
maybe
be.
I'm wrong, maybe not. But I think he could do it again next year. This is my caveat is they have to get some help. If they don't get any help and you have 2 more years of whatever the heck their offense was to start for pretty much the entire regular season, it's over for Kelce. But if they can go establish, they need a 1. Essentially, they need a 1. If it's drafting a rookie, whatever it is, they got to get a dominant guy and then let him and Rice be complements to that.
Yeah. At 10, we've got George Kittle. He's
Just
30.
Kittle.
He's very good. He gives you 1,000 yards basically every single year. It
He
feels
gives you
like.
1,000 yards, but he gives you a frustrating 1,000 yards. He'll have like
It really is.
2 points, 3 points, 4 points, 45 points, and then back to 7 points, 5 points, and then another 30 burger.
It's very inconsistent. But then when it does happen, it's like 5 for 130 and 3. And you're like, oh, I just won.
Your opponent's like, what just happened?
And that's just, it's the byproduct of that offense where there's so many playmakers and they spread the ball around and everybody gets a chance to eat. And it's George Kittle gets in every now and then.
Yeah, if you were ranking real-life tight ends, he is the best tight end in the league. Because you got to factor in blocking. He's the best tight end.
If you include blocking, he is probably the best all around. I mean,
But this is a fantasy show. We don't care about blocking.
Exactly. Blocking doesn't count. In fact, we point out when tight ends don't block because that's better for fantasy football.
Yeah, except for Kyle Pitts. He doesn't
They
block
made
and he
that
still
man
doesn't
block.
catch passes.
He doesn't block, and they still were like,
No,
yeah,
he
but you could block.
No, he does block. He blocks for Jonnu Smith.
Right, there you go.
He's the lead blocker
it's the
for Jonnu
opposite.
Smith. Yeah.
It's bizarro world over there.
Raheem Morris, if you do that at any point this season, I probably can't say it on recording.
It's just beep.
Yeah, just redacted.
All right, at 11 and 12 to round out our tight end ones, we've got David Njoku and Jake Ferguson.
Nobody
For
cares.
context, Ben didn't know who Jake Ferguson was.
I know who Jake Ferguson was, but I couldn't remember who he played for.
Oh, that was so good. It's like,
oh,
Ben,
crap.
you
who's
got to
Ferguson play
remember Jake Ferguson.
for? Dude, the guy I faced in the championship had Jake Ferguson. I wasn't worried. I had
You're like,
Kyle
"Yeah, this
Pitts
is
and I
fine."
wasn't worried.
You're like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Ferguson
Whatever.
outscored Kyle Pitts, I'm sure, but it wasn't drastic.
And I won that championship by like 100 points.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Didn't matter whatsoever.
Dominated.
Anything else you got on all these tight ends before we get up out of here?
Yeah. I guess we can mention we will do quarterbacks later.
Yeah, we're going to do another episode of quarterbacks. We looked down and it was like, okay, this is going to be a very long episode if we include quarterbacks as well. So we're going to do quarterbacks later.
We will be up for the Super Bowl this weekend. We'll be having a little hoedown, so we might do it then.
We will see you all in the quarterbacks episode, probably dropping early next week. Have a great one, everybody. And honestly, enjoy the Super Bowl. It's going to be a fun time.
Who are you pulling for?
The Chiefs.
You pulling for the Chiefs?
Yeah.
I'm going for the 49ers. I want them.
It'll be a fun time.
want
We get to pull against
revenge,
each other, shout,
justice,
yell.
Justice for Josh.
There you go.
Not Josh. Not the Josh you. I'm talking
Not
about Josh
me,
Allen.
Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about Josh Allen.
There you go. That'll
The
do it
Chiefs
for
are
this
still
one.
gonna
We'll
win.
see you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.